This video is about database normalization, specifically normalizing a database to first normal form. These are the conditions for first normal form in technical terms. A table must not contain composite or multi-valued attributes. A table must not contain any repeating groups of attributes. But what does this terminology actually mean? Put more simply, each field of a table may contain only one item. All of the data items in a column must mean the same thing. Each row of the table must be unique. A table must have no repeating columns. Let's work through an example to make things clear. Here's a table that might be part of a system used by a college or a university to record information about students and the courses they're studying. There are a number of violations of the first normal form here. To begin with, a table must not contain composite or multi-valued attributes. In other words, each field, that is the intersection of a row and a column, can contain only one data item. Usually, a person's first name and surname would be stored in separate columns. But to put them together in a single column like this isn't necessarily a violation of the first normal form. Arguably, a student's full name is a single item, and the database designer may have good reasons to deal with the first name and the surname as an indivisible item, that is, an atomic data item. Suppose you needed to store the address of a student as well. It's quite common to store someone's house number and street address in the same column. But arguably, the street address should be broken down into separate elements like this. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the problem you're trying to solve and building an appropriate solution to that problem. If your application will always treat the street address as a single indivisible item, then it's okay to keep it all together. So, returning to the original table, for now each full name can be thought of as atomic. It's a single data item. But take a look at the record for John Jones. The student name column contains a number as well. This could be anything. His house number, his cash card PIN, or even his Wi-Fi password, who knows? Whatever it is, it surely doesn't belong here. This is a multi-valued attribute. Notice also that David is married. This is clearly not part of his name. Again, this is a multi-valued attribute. And there's another violation of first normal form here. Notice that Mervyn Drake appears twice. There are two identical records here. To be in first normal form, each record in a table must be unique in some way. If the second entry for Mervyn Drake had a slightly different combination of courses, this wouldn't be a violation of the rule. But what if there were indeed two people called Mervyn Drake studying exactly the same courses? The issue of record uniqueness is normally solved by having a primary key column, which contains a different value for each record. Here's the same table again, but this time with a new ID column to ensure the uniqueness of each record. The ID column serves as the primary key. In this case, the ID is just a sequential number, one for each student. But you could have used something else like a national insurance number or a social security number, something that belongs to a particular person and only that person. This version resolves another issue. The marital status has been put into a separate column of its own, and the meaningless digits next to John Jones have been removed. All of the data items in each column now mean the same thing. The first name and last name are still together, for now, but the course titles column is an issue. It's highly unlikely that any database designed to store enrolment information like this would regard all of the courses studied by one student as an atomic data item. Here's one way it could be dealt with: a separate column for each course. But although one problem has gone away, there's a new one. This table still violates first normal form, which states that there should be no repeating groups of attributes. In other words, no repeating columns like this. It would be difficult to do anything useful with this table structure. Notice how many of the fields contain null values. Notice how some of the course titles appear in different columns. How would you build a query to search for all of the students who do physics, for example? And what happens when there's a new student who wants to study 4 or even 5 courses? The table would need new columns. Any solution that requires changes to the structure of a table when more of the same type of data are added is unsatisfactory. What's really needed is a structure that's flexible enough to cater for all eventualities. This table could be considered to be in first normal form if each student studied only one course, or if the courses were removed from the table completely, but then it would be useless. This approach solves the problem. All of the original data can be catered for by having more rows like this, one record for each student course combination. The ID is no longer unique for each record, so by definition this can't be the primary key. But it's still okay to have 3 records for Kevin Drum, because now it's the combination of ID and course title that's always unique. A student can't be attending the same course twice, not at the same time. It's the combination of ID and course title that serves as the primary key. The primary key of this table involves more than one column, so it's known as a composite primary key. Each column that forms part of the primary key is known as a prime attribute. This table is not ideal, but it does now satisfy all of the conditions for first normal form. To summarise, in order for a table to be in first normal form, in technical terms, a table must not contain composite or multi-valued attributes. A table must not contain any repeating groups of attributes. Or, put more simply, each field of a table may contain only one item. All of the data items in a column must mean the same thing. Each row of the table must be unique, and the table must have no repeating columns.